Pick up a Colt 1911 in 45 ACP. Cold steel, real weight in the hand, 7 rounds. A trigger that breaks clean and hard. It feels less like a product and more like a piece of American history you can hold. Now pick up a Smith Wesson Model 686 and 357 Magnum. Solid, simple, reliable. A revolver that says exactly what it means and means exactly what it says. Then pick up a rifle like the M1 Garand in 30-06. That is not just a firearm. That is legacy. That is history. That is a rifle that still commands respect the moment you lift it. And then step into the modern world. A Glock 19 in 9mm. Lightweight, 15 rounds, easy to maintain, simple to run. A SIG Sauer P320 in 9mm. Modular, adaptable, built to fit the shooter instead of forcing the shooter to fit the gun. And a Daniel Defense M4V7 in 5.56 NATO. Fast, accurate, modern, built for optics, lights, and the kind of speed old rifles were never designed to deliver. 2 worlds, same purpose, different answers. So, what actually holds up today? Because the answer is not as simple as new is better, and it is definitely not old is obsolete. The truth is, old guns and modern firearms were made for different times, different expectations, and different kinds of men. And once you understand that, the whole debate gets a whole lot more interesting. The old school side. Let's start with the classics. The 1911 is the obvious place to begin. There is a reason that pistol has survived more than a century. It feels right in your hand. The grip angle is natural. The trigger is one of the best ever put on a fighting pistol. And when it runs well, it gives you a kind of feedback modern polymer pistols often cannot match. There is a reason shooters still talk about a good 1911 trigger like it is something special. Because it is. But the 1911 was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be serious. It rewards a proper grip. It rewards clean trigger control. It rewards discipline. If your fundamentals are weak, the 1911 will let you know immediately. If your grip is sloppy, it tells you. If your trigger press is lazy, it tells you that too. That is why older shooters respect it. It was built in an era when a firearm was expected to do its job, but the man behind it was expected to do his. Then there is the revolver. The Model 686 is a perfect example of why revolvers still have a loyal following. When you pull the trigger, it fires. No magazine to seat, no slide to rack, no complex manual of arms to remember under pressure. Just pull and the gun does what it was made to do. That kind of simplicity matters, especially to men who grew up around revolvers, ranch guns, duty holsters, and sidearms that were trusted because they were understood. A revolver gives you a different kind of confidence, not because it is more advanced, because it is more direct. You know how it works. You know what the trigger will do. You know where the limitations are. And in a world of moving parts, that kind of certainty can calm the mind. Then comes the M1 Garand. This rifle is in a category of its own. It is not just a firearm. It is a symbol of American industry, military history, and wartime sacrifice. Heavy? Yes. Large? Absolutely. Slower than modern rifles? Of course. But that is not why it matters. It matters because it represents a generation that did not ask whether a rifle was stylish, ergonomic, or modular. They asked whether it worked. And the Garand did work. It helped define an era. It helped win a war. And it still carries that weight every time someone shoulders it. That matters to your audience. Men in their 50s and 60s remember when a rifle was not an accessory. It was a serious tool, a real piece of equipment, and sometimes a connection to the men who came before them. What old guns teach. The reason old guns still matter is not just nostalgia, it is education. A 1911 teaches discipline. A revolver teaches patience. A Garand teaches respect. These old platforms do not forgive sloppy technique. the way modern guns often do. That is exactly why they are valuable. They force you to slow down. They force you to think. They force you to understand the gun instead of just assuming it will cover for your mistakes. A shooter who spends real time with older firearms develops a different kind of awareness. He learns how much grip matters, how much trigger control matters, how much stance matters, how much follow-through matters. And that kind of learning sticks, because the gun was not helping him. The shooter had to help himself. That is a lesson a lot of modern shooters never get. Modern firearms are designed to be easier. That is not a weakness. That is one of their strengths. But ease can become complacency if the shooter is not paying attention. And if you have ever watched someone rely too heavily on a forgiving platform, you know exactly what that looks like. They can shoot well enough, but they never fully understand why. The old guns make sure you know why. The modern advantage. Now let's be honest. If we are talking pure performance today, modern firearms usually win. The Glock 19 is one of the clearest examples of practical evolution. It is not fancy, it is not romantic. It is not trying to impress anybody at the range. It is trying to work. And that is why it has become one of the most trusted pistols in the world. It carries well, it shoots well, it is easy to maintain, it has a proven reputation, and it gives the shooter more rounds than most older pistols ever could. That matters, because in the real world, capacity is not a luxury, it is an advantage. The SIG P320 takes that idea even further. This is a pistol built around flexibility. Different grip modules, different sizes, different configurations. That means the gun can adapt to the shooter, the mission, or the role. That is a huge shift from the old days when the shooter had to adapt to the gun, whether it fit or not. The modern gun is not just a weapon anymore. It is a platform. And platforms allow customization that older generations could only imagine. Then there is the modern rifle. This is where the difference becomes impossible to ignore. A rifle like the Daniel Defense M4V7 and 5.56 NATO gives the shooter a level of control, speed, and adaptability that older battle rifles simply could not match in the same package. It is lighter, it is easier to mount optics on, it is easier to run under recoil, it is easier to configure for the real world. Lights, slings, red dots, magnifiers, suppressors. Modern rifles are built to work with all of that. Old rifles were not. That does not make them bad. It just means they belong to a different world. And in today's world, the rifle that handles faster, mounts optics easier, and gives the shooter more control is usually the better tool. The real shift. So what actually changed from then to now? 3 things. Capacity, control, forgiveness. Old guns often give you fewer rounds, less flexibility, and less margin for error. That meant the shooter had to be sharper, more careful, more disciplined. Modern guns give you more capacity, better recoil management, and more room to make a correction before things go wrong. That does not make the shooter weak. It should make the shooter more effective. The real difference is simple. Old guns demanded more from you. Modern guns give more to you. And in a real defensive scenario, a tool that helps you stay accurate, stay fast, and stay in the fight longer has the advantage. Modern firearms also benefit from everything around them. Better optics, better holsters, better aftermarket support, better lights, better magazines, better training systems. That ecosystem matters. A gun does not exist by itself. It exists in the real world where parts break, conditions change, and time matters. That is one reason modern firearms hold up so well. They are not just better on paper, they are better supported in practice. Why the classics still matter. But here's the part people miss. Just because modern guns are more capable does not mean the classics are obsolete. Far from it. The classics still matter because they teach perspective. They remind you what it means to work with less. They remind you that skill used to matter more because the gear gave you less help. They remind you that a firearm should be understood, not just owned. And they carry a kind of weight that modern guns cannot replace. A 1911 still feels like a serious man's pistol. A revolver still feels like a trust-based tool. A Garand still feels like a piece of American history. That means something, especially to an audience that grew up around men who took pride in doing things the right way, even when it took longer. There is also something to be said for durability. Many old guns were built to last generations. When maintained properly, they can still run beautifully today. And at the range, they often deliver a kind of satisfaction that modern guns cannot match. Not because they are faster, not because they are lighter, because they connect you to a different tradition. What wins today? So if we take emotion out of it and ask the honest question, what actually holds up best today? Modern firearms. No question. If your life depends on performance, you want the gun that gives you more rounds, better ergonomics, easier optics integration, lower recoil, and more adaptability. That is where the modern side wins. If you want a pistol that is easier to carry and easier to shoot quickly, modern wins. If you want a handgun that adapts to different hands and different roles, modern wins. If you want a rifle that works clearly with optics, accessories, and current training doctrine, modern wins. That is the practical answer. But the deeper answer is this: the best shooters do not worship one era. They learn from both. They respect the old guns because those guns built discipline. They rely on the modern guns because those guns increase efficiency. Old guns build the shooter. Modern guns help the shooter perform. And the man who understands both is usually the man who is best prepared when it matters most. Final thought. So no, old guns are not better just because they are classic. And modern guns are not better just because they are new. But if the question is what holds up best in the real world today, the answer is modern firearms. Still, the classics matter because they remind us where the craft came from. They remind us that skill matters. They remind us that discipline matters. They remind us that a firearm is more than an object. It is a responsibility. The modern gun will help you survive. The old gun will teach you how to think. And the man who respects both is the man most likely to be ready when it counts.